We are celebrating 90 years of the Michigan Chronicle, recognized 5 times as the best Black newspaper in the country. Founded in 1936 with a mission to serve Detroit and its Black community, the Chronicle has shared stories often untold and brought to light through dedicated reporting and discussions about critical issues. Those decades of focused journalism sparked an idea: pancakes and politics, bringing together leaders of diverse backgrounds to talk about business, politics, and the community. Today's conversation is all about philanthropy's role in education, arts, and neighborhood investment. We'll hear from Wendy Lewis Jackson, managing editor of the Kresge Foundation's Detroit program; Angelique Power, president and chief executive officer of the Skillman Foundation; Latrice McClendon, Detroit director of the Knight Foundation; and Kylee Mitchell Wells, founding executive director of Ballmer Group's Southeast Michigan office. Our moderator today is Dennis Archer Jr., chairman and CEO of 1642 Ventures. Today's Pancakes and Politics is presented by PNC Bank and in partnership with these platinum sponsors: Bedrock, DTE Energy, and Walker Miller Energy Services. Now here's the president of Real Times Media, Kathy Ned.
Everybody, good morning. Yes, we're about to start, so if you can make your way to your seats, that would be great. Welcome to C21, Forum 3 of Pancakes and Politics, put on by the Michigan Chronicle. Today we have a wonderful panel for you, from Detroit neighborhoods to regional impact. And we have 4 of the baddest sisters this side of the Mason-Dixon who are going to be speaking with you today. So you're not going to want to miss anything. At this time, I would like to bring to the stage our lead sponsor, Michael Bickers, the regional president, Detroit and Michigan of PNC.
Photo lady. Get my best side. Good morning. How are you guys? So at this point, this is, I think, session number 3. So we stop talking a whole lot about specifically about PNC, and we get to feature partners of ours like we featured a lot of you. And today we're featuring developing kids, kingdoms in different spaces. A beautiful facility I had the opportunity to visit at 6 Mile, I think, Kim, just west of Telegraph or East Telegraph. And I was blown away because it'd be a church and I think the auto thing or all that stuff that you've turned into something very special. One of the most innovative facilities I've ever seen. And each year, over 1,000 kids and families come through there for experiential learning, arts, development, workplace preparation, college preparation, goes on and on, after school and summer programming. And it was founded by Ms. Kim Johnson so many years ago. And she's become a best friend of mine. And all of this coming from her vision after overcoming her own personal challenges in life. And it's just one of the most inspiring things I have ever seen. And she has one of the most wonderful teams, which I will introduce by name after a video that we have. Thank you.
Developing Kids is for any youth who wants to come to a place where they feel safe, they will feel loved. They may not even know what they need, but if they come to Developing Kids, we'll help them find that thing that they're looking for.
Well, this was an abandoned building that was filled with a lot of materials from illegal dumping for almost 15 years.
Most people would run when they saw what was inside of this building, but for founder and CEO Kimberly Johnson, all she could see was space and the perfect location.
It's very close to several bus lines for children and adults to be able to access us. It has a large parking lot so that we can house a lot of the families that come to us. Our after school and summer programs are very similar. It's just that our summer program is full day from 8:30 to 5 p.m. But we separate them kindergarten and first grade, second and third grade, fourth and fifth grade. So understanding that the needs are different for every age group.
The opportunity to grow our numbers from 600 youth a year to serve 1,000 youth a year is what we're looking forward to doing in a new building.
So if you could say hello, if you guys could stand, my friends Kim Johnson, Samaya Hairston, David Krysak, Jamal Norman, Charles Johnson, Layla Williams, Gary Hopkins, and Kenya Miller. Thank you guys for the work you do and the work you'll continue to do. Thank you.
Good morning. Y'all moving kind of slow this morning. Kathy got started and I don't think half of the people were in this room, but it's full now. Give yourselves a round of applause. Let's go. Let's go. I want to thank Kathy Nash. She does a great job. I want to thank the entire Michigan Chronicle team, especially Jamel Cotton and Lakeisha Burns and Alexis Carter, who's rarely in the room, but she's working the table downstairs, and hopefully she helps to create a great experience for you guys when you're at the door. So they give me an opportunity to come up here and look important, but I really rely on their support. So please give them another round of applause. And I want to thank you. As Kathy said, this is our 21st year, and I always love thanking our partners, especially our presenting sponsor, PNC Bank. I think we're running on 10 years now that you guys have had the top spot, and we really appreciate it. This is something that we take very seriously, and your investment just shows that you believe in the work, so thank you. I also want to thank our platinum sponsors, DTE and Bedrock and Walker Miller Energy Services. Please give them a round of applause. You know, we really work hard to develop panels that are substantive and relevant. And today's panel is nothing short of that. Really excited to bring this conversation to this stage. These four organizations that these women work for impact all of us in this room in one way or the other. And hopefully that will come out during this discussion, whether it be neighborhood improvements or economic mobility, business transformation, technology, or workforce development. They have their finger on the pulse, and they invest in communities that look like all of us around the greater Detroit area. And so this is going to be a great discussion. I'm excited about it. It's something that we did a miniature version of this at our Power 50 dinner, but I really wanted every one of us to have the experience of being a part of this conversation. So enjoy yourselves, get some more food. There's a lot out there. We're going to show a great video from our sponsor, DTE. And after the video, we're going to have our moderator, Mr. Dennis Archer Jr., chairman of 1642. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joy Harris, president and CEO of DTE Energy. Welcome to Pancakes and Politics. For over 20 years, this forum has been a driving force in moving our region forward with lively discussion that leads to real progress on issues that affect our city and our state. All of us at DTE have a deep connection to the communities where we live and serve. Like many of our employees, I'm a native Detroiter, but DTE's promise to provide reliable, affordable energy started well before my time. Our gas company began lighting the streets over 175 years ago, and we're still keeping that promise today. We're making the grid stronger and smarter, investing in the future. Last year, we delivered the best electric reliability in over 2 decades, while investing carefully to keep bills as low as possible. Beyond our core responsibilities, our DTE team members have a heart for serving our communities and creating a brighter future where families and neighborhoods can thrive. That means being a leader in volunteering and partnering with local organizations to help people who need it most. It also means supporting economic development efforts to create jobs and new opportunities that will power our state forward for years to come. At DTE, we believe that's a future worth building together. Thank you for your partnership.
Good morning. I guess I don't get an introduction. I'm Dennis Archer Jr. I'm excited about today's conversation. As Hiram articulated a few months ago, we held a similar chat with a smaller group, but touching upon the importance of philanthropy. And if you look at the history of Detroit, Detroit has generally been a very philanthropically driven city. If you go back to Coleman Young, he had Max Fisher and Al Taubman. My father had his Edsel Ford and Peter Carmanos. And if you fast forward, through Mike Duggan's 12 years, he had a tremendous amount of support, much of which came from these four women that are going to come on the stage shortly. And I'm excited to see how, and now the Mayor Sheffield term, philanthropy, and they're all shaking their heads over there like, we're going to support that sister. But how philanthropy continues to support the city of Detroit. So I want to jump into it and bring the ladies up first. First, Latrice, come on up. Latrice McClendon. Okay. Are they playing music for you? I didn't get my name. I got no music. I got nothing. But that's all right. Latrice is the program director for the Knight Foundation, which is a dedicated advocate for Detroit's small business, journalism, and the arts and culture, recognizing the pivotal role of empowering communities to shape their own path. Latrice often emphasizes equity, amplifying community voices, and fostering lasting and transformative change, which we're going to talk about later, because you got to invest in stuff that's going to be for the long term, not just a short term. Angelique, come on up. Angelique is the president and CEO of the Skillman Foundation, which I think everyone knows works very specifically with grassroots organizations and communities around kids and education. And they grant about $28 or $30 million a year annually throughout the city. So thank you for being here, Angelique. Kylee Mitchell Wells, come on up. Kylee is the leading executive for the Ballmer Group, which is doing absolutely amazing work in the community. I sit on a board where you've been very generous, and we thank you for that. But you lead the organization's philanthropic strategy across the entire region. And under your leadership, the Ballmer Group has invested over $430 million to drive lasting change in local communities. And I also will say her founder went to Country Day with Hiram and I a little bit before us. Wendy Lewis Jackson, come on up here. Wendy is managing director of the Detroit program at the Kresge Foundation, where she works to revitalize Detroit and to strengthen its social and economic fabric. And your work supports organizations providing economic opportunity for low-income people and addresses the needs of vulnerable children and families. So thank you all for being here. As always, I would invite any elected officials that are here to stand up because your contributions are appreciated. We got one. Hey, Michael, what's happening? All right, we got one over here, back here. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Commissioner. Let me just say this before we dive into this. If you must be blind, what's up, Horace? You must be blind if you do not see what is happening in the landscape, at least here in metropolitan Detroit. I can't confess to understand what's happening around the country, but we are definitely entering the time of leading women. If you look at the DTE video with Joy Harris now as the CEO, you look at Blue Cross Blue Shield with Trisha there, you look at Mary Barra at GM, and then you look at the Honorable Mayor Mary Sheffield, you know, across corporate Detroit, political Detroit, and philanthropic Detroit, women are at the helm. And particularly related to philanthropy, y'all got like a mob thing going on. I mean, it's there are more y'all in the Nicole somewhere. Nicole, you here? Yes. Nicole is like the fifth amigo. We didn't have enough chairs up here for you, Nicole, but you know, you'd have been up here too. But I think it's incredible, and I thank you all for your work. I've had an opportunity to either work with or support all of you. And I just, on behalf of Detroit, want to make sure before we get started, we thank you for your work. Thank you. You know, from neighborhoods to regional impact, it's a timely subject matter, particularly given the direction that our new mayor is taking the city. If you go from her tenure on council, particularly as president, and you follow that through the election cycle and her suggested platform, and now as she has hit the ground running, the neighborhoods and the community are at the forefront of what she is trying to do now as mayor of the city of Detroit, which makes this theme, Hiram, very timely. Detroit's story has always been bigger than just our city limits. Today's conversation asks a very critical question, which is, how do investments in neighborhoods, in housing, in education, in entrepreneurship, public space, and people create ripple effects across southeastern Michigan and ultimately shape the future of the state itself? We're going to talk about in the time we have together, and I want to make sure that everyone knows, by the way, there's a QR code somewhere when they shift the screen that you can shoot to ask questions. And you can also go to clickondetroit.com/pancakesandpolitics and submit questions. So we want this to be a conversation with everybody in the room. But we're going to talk about how our Detroit neighborhoods can be economic engines for the broader community, regional interconnectedness, and the statewide implication of it all. But most importantly, I think we're going to weave consistently through this is how a collaboration among philanthropy, government, business, and residents are very important. Let me start with something that is always top of mind for everyone, and each of you play different roles, both in your profession as well as, you know, Wendy, we sat on a school board together. Education is a challenge. And you know, historically, people thought that in any given state, particularly here, that this was a black and brown problem. Detroit and Pontiac and Inkster and Muskegon Heights and other Highland Park, you know, their education is poor because they have lesser incomes and that's where they live, and it's not necessarily our problem. That mindset has changed. The state of Michigan, that's Troy, Canton, Bloomfield Hills, Northville, we are at the bottom, near the bottom, related to educational performance. We've got a forthcoming election where the gubernatorial candidates, to a greater or lesser extent, are talking about wholesale changes related to education in the state of Michigan. I would ask each of you, what needs to change from an infrastructure standpoint, how it's funded, how it's measured at the government level to then have that trickle down? Because since COVID, I know that Detroit schools, our school in particular, Jalen Rose Leadership Academy, it's been tough for kids to bounce back from COVID from a academic performance standpoint. So what needs to change at the state level? Latrice, we'll start with you and go down the line.
Well, you stressed me out this morning because I do sit as the president of the Detroit Public School Board as well, elected. And so I was hoping to talk about philanthropy, but since we got to talk about education, which is an important topic, and it does intersect with philanthropy.
Absolutely.
The one thing I just want to continue to highlight to everyone is that we need equitable funding for all students, but especially Detroit Public Schools students. If you look at our neighboring suburban areas, they get more per pupil than a Detroit Public School student gets. That impacts what we can do on a daily basis. I would also add that we have to keep advocating. First of all, Detroit students are smart, they're brilliant, they can read. Like all of this stuff that we hear in the media about what our children are not doing, they're actually doing the opposite. And so I think we also need to have a narrative shift right now in general as a people and start believing and reinforcing the good that is in our students, because our students are absolutely brilliant, absolutely resilient, even against not having equitable funding, tough situations at home and so on. I do want to commend the ladies I'm sitting on the stage with though, because we lack some funding. Between the three of them, they've committed over $40 million to support Detroit Public Schools and our students in Detroit. And without philanthropy and without having them as a support, I don't know that we would have been able to offer after school programs, summer school, trainings. And so I got to give it up to my colleagues. And that's why I stay very close to them, because they're taking care of the work that's important, and that's our students.
Yes, agreed. So Angelique, so you made a good point about, hey, we're here to talk about philanthropy. Philanthropy, I've noticed here, often gets called to Band-Aid problems that need foundational fixes. And so the $40 million is great, but Angelique, I will ask you, because you're a leading funder in the space of kids and education, et cetera. What needs to change at a government level, or how education is funded, measured, et cetera, such that you are then looked at to enhance that versus fixing that?
Yeah. Thank you for framing it as a Michigan problem. I think that's really important to understand. Michigan is 44th in terms of education. We did not get here overnight. We're not going to get our way through it overnight. Philanthropy isn't going to fix it with a grant. We have a North Star problem where we don't actually have a cohesive vision for our education system. And that's what you need to start with. And then you go to what is the structure that actually supports that North Star. North Star. We want Michigan to be a top 10 state of creators and makers and innovators and doers, right? And then you structure it. What is the governor's responsibility in that? What is the state Board of Education's responsibility, the state SUP? What are the districts and the superintendents? And everyone is rowing in this direction. We 100% need more funding. We have been underfunding public schools for the past 20 years, and we're not going to actually get the results we want if we don't pour money into it. And we don't want to pour money in without a clear vision, without a clear structure, and able to make sure that our students are learning and improving. And then finally, it has to do with a curriculum. A lot of our young people will tell you themselves that they need to understand AI. They need to understand how to use it. They need critical thinking, media literacy, math skills. And so we have to not only create this structure, fund it like we mean it, but then we actually have to update the curriculum so that our young people are prepared for this moment.
Thank you. Kylee?
Well, agreed that I'm glad you set the stage for it being a Michigan problem. And I just want to give a shout out to Governor Whitmer, because she is the first governor to put as much funding into education that we have had over the last years. The money is an issue, but what I see as a bigger problem is the fact that we have 800 plus school districts in the state of Michigan. That fragmentation, regardless to how much money you put in, when you have a fragmented system, I'm a business person by trade, and when you have a fragmented system, the money going in is not always accounted for, and nor are the outcomes with that money. And so as I've been talking with gubernatorial candidates, this governor as well, where are the reforms for making sure we can streamline the number of school districts that we have so that we can get the necessary outcomes that we seek with education?
Thank you. Wendy?
So I appreciate the comments made so far around the need for vision and a vision of where we're going. You know, we're using 8-track strategies in a digital streaming world, and this is, you know, a structural problem. And it's going to take a number of components, from narrative change and, you know, the importance of rigor, but also the importance of building skills. You know, our young people, it's estimated, will change jobs between 10 and 16 times throughout their career. The skills that you're going to need to be resilient in an AI digital world is going to be extremely important to begin to infuse. And I think that, you know, we need to think about this as a system of learning, not just a system of schools and education, and so that we can build that longer term set of skills and rigorous instruction for young people. We also need new institutions, quite honestly. We're using 20th century institutions, again, for 21st and beyond kinds of challenges. And then we need to also be much more place-based in our approaches. And some of you know of our investment at the Marygrove Learning Community, thinking about, you know, the importance of place, the importance of transitions from birth to and through college. And it's been, you know, tremendous to be able to partner with the Detroit Public School District, but also the role of universities like the University of Michigan, who's partnering with our organization on that particular project. And so more partnerships as well is definitely going to be required.
Thank you. So, you know, for years, the regional growth conversation is centered around downtown or huge employers, a big plant coming, and there's a pivot now to neighborhoods. So why is it so important to invest and stabilize our neighborhoods, in importance related to not just Detroit, but the region? Any of you?
I mean, there is no strong Detroit unless it's strong for Detroiters. And all of the investments that have been made in downtown and midtown are extremely important. But we think about it from a school lens. Until every family feels like they have a school they can send their child to that is an excellent school in every neighborhood, then we're not going to see the prosperity that we want to see for our city. So, you know, in the beginning, the introduction had to do with how much philanthropy has done for the city. And I think Detroiters have been saving Detroit. Detroiters are the biggest philanthropists in Detroit. And so it's beyond time. It's really a matter, not that the ideas aren't there, the innovation isn't there, the capital hasn't been there. So it's time to recognize the power that is across our city and then fund it.
I would also like to add Dr. Vitti with the health hubs at Detroit Public Schools is a way to build community. The health hubs is an investment where at certain schools throughout the district, they have resources and services, not just for the youth, but for the parents as well. And so this 2-generational approach to supporting families is how you get to building neighborhood and community. So shout out to Latrice and Dr. Vitti and everyone over at the Detroit Public School District for really putting those health hubs in place to help build community.
Mm-hmm. High school graduation rates at DPSCD are nearing the state average. Yeah. We are retaining more teachers than we're outpacing the state average in terms of retention and attraction. We're seeing these gains inside of DPSCD and across charters that we don't really talk about as much. There's a lot actually that the rest of the state could learn from Detroit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll just add to your point, we are at 83% graduation rate. That's a historic high for Detroit Public Schools. And we are tracking to outperform the state. So watch out for our graduation rates in about a month. And you guys are going to see a pivotal change in how we're doing, how our kids are graduating And that is a big deal because we need to get as many of our young people out graduating in trade school and college. And it's historic. So thank you for raising that. Yeah.
Well, Latrice, let me just add, Latrice, I believe today there will be a publishing of the 108 school districts in the country that have seen gains post-pandemic. And Detroit Public Schools is one that will be highlighted in a national article.
Yep. They're still on my talking points this morning, but that is true. And that is a fantastic win. And that's why I say we have to shift the narrative, because we are winning in Detroit Public Schools. And I know we're talking about neighborhoods, but we need strong schools and neighborhoods, and we have them. And so, you know, it's important that we know that that parents know that they can send their child to a school in Detroit in a neighborhood, and they're going to have successful rates of graduation and academic achievement. And so thank you for raising that as well. Appreciate it.
In answer to your question, Dennis, I think we've learned so much around the thought being that first you invest in downtown or the downtown core, and that would trickle up and out to the rest of the city. And I think, particularly because of the research and work that Nika Goss and the team at Detroit Future City has done, it's important to think about a resilient Detroit as a set of a strong downtown combined with economic engines in our neighborhood. And so the investments that you're seeing, not just by Kresge, but all of us, are focused on neighborhoods because of that particular need to think about how do we make the city more resilient economically and begin to invest in economic engines that are located in our neighborhoods, connected to strong schools, because that's what really makes or break a neighborhood, and a much more holistic approach to how we address strengthening neighborhoods in the city.
It's interesting. Yesterday, a colleague and I were chatting, Jerry, and we were talking about, in his instance, where he was going to live. And he's got a high school age daughter. And he settled on living in Detroit, but sending his daughter to school outside of Detroit. And we talked about kind of generationally how that's changed, because when my mom was going to middle school, she would walk out the front door and go to the school in her neighborhood. Mm-hmm. We really need to get back to that. So these announcements and this performance, Latrice, at DPS is imperative, because none of this other stuff matters. And in terms of attracting the large job creators to our city, key among where you're going to live, is it safe, and can my employees put their kids in the schools? Yeah. And so it's imperative. You talked about Detroiters being the philanthropists. When you talk about resident voice, resident trust, how do you all ensure the residents are shaping the investment priorities that you're making, instead of simply being just the recipients of decisions that are made elsewhere?
I love this question.
You want to go?
Do you want to go first?
I'll take it. So one of the things that many of us are doing is something that we call trust-based philanthropy, and that is changing the game around this question in particular of how do you ensure that residents and other important stakeholders in the change are at the table designing your strategies, helping make decisions on where resources go. And I think we all have examples of how we're using that practice in our programming and in our investment decisions at our particular foundations. For Kresge, one example for us is our Kresge Innovative Detroit projects or program. And in that program, we're working directly with residents on the design of the strategy, the decisions around where the investments go in neighborhoods, and the evaluation of how well the efforts are doing. But we all have examples of how that is working.
Yeah, I'll just add that Kresge and Ballmer Group are partnering on the Community Development Organization Fund in partnership with Enterprise Community Partners, where that's taking the CDC community, so the Community Development Corporations, who are closest to the neighborhoods and people, and really getting an organized plan of how to best support in the various communities.
I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, for those of us who are employers, It's the people really who are doing the job every day at the desk behind the computer who are best able to give suggestions on how we improve efficiencies and do things better for our clients, as opposed to us dictating from the top. So I'm glad to see that you guys have those sorts of initiatives. Jason around? Jason, you ready for me to kick it to you, or you know?
I'm just trying to find table 7.
Well, find table 7. I'm gonna go with one more question while you're looking. Table 7's over here. You know, Detroit and the measure very often of recovery is focused on that you can see, buildings and physical infrastructure. But talk about how important the social infrastructure is. Trust, health access, arts, public spaces, all of those things, the importance to long-term regional growth.
It's all important, Dennis, I think. And I think in all of our examples of where we're investing, we try and integrate these approaches to particularly to build complete neighborhoods that serve residents well. You have to think about arts and culture. You have to think about early childhood education. You have to marry it with quality and safe public spaces and all of the things that make quality of life really important. And I must add, because I'm looking at Carla right now, the importance of climate in all of this and how it integrates. So I think all of us, even though we have our particular strategies and approaches, we are all trying to look at this much more holistically.
And where's Carla?
Right there.
Carla, can you stand up for a second? I just want to say this about Carla Walker Miller. Outside of being a friend and my neighbor 2 doors down, I have watched Carla with no fear. I see Ron Hall over here too. We have seen her stand up with no fear in conference rooms with all white males, demand a voice, demand equity, inclusion, particular for Black women. So I want to say thank you, Carla. And you got to be very proud to see this stage full of these sisters up here. Jason, you got your question?
Dr. Darian Hudson with...
Oh, here's another superstar. You can be up here too.
Hi, good morning. Darian Hudson with United Way. It's wonderful to see all of you on that stage, and thank you for your partnership and investment in United Way. So my question is about the innovations and partnerships that are most exciting to you. We are in a room packed with nonprofits today. Can we make some noise, nonprofits? So just wanted to hear a little bit more about those investments. Who are those partners, and what are the what's the results of the movement that you're seeing that has you excited? Thank you.
Well, I'll jump in since Dr. Hudson stood up. I am so thrilled that the Ballmer Group over the last 3 years has been able to partner with United Way and Dr. Hudson's team on Summer Discovery. We're coming up on our 3rd year. It's a summer school program where youth receive 4 hours of academic and another 2 to 4 hours of enrichment, up to 6 weeks throughout the summer. And this is a regional effort in Oakland, Wayne, Macomb County. And she and her team have been able to grow from year 1 at 17,000 to, I believe we're trending close to 70,000 this summer. So that is truly one of the premier partnerships that I am so thrilled that we have been able to invest in under my leadership. And there are others, Developing Kids. I saw them in the room and on the screen. Really appreciate our work there. But this is a great nonprofit community that truly cares. And so we're just thrilled to be partnering.
Yeah, and if I can just jump in, I also see some amazing partners here like Black Tech Saturday, who is creating a micro program to help train up our students and anyone who wants to have better skills in tech. We also have Joe Louis Greenway, Leon Metley building the biggest trailway in Detroit. Knight has invested both in tech, of course, art, but also public space. And there are several other folks in this room that we've invested in. But to your point, We invest in these organizations because they are in the community, they are in the neighborhoods, they are working with Detroiters, and we need to make sure that we have thriving neighborhoods, and that includes arts and culture, that includes tech, that includes public space. And so Knight Foundation is in a business of all three of those. And I must also mention journalism and the importance of democracy, because right now we're at a especially today. And Knight Foundation is the biggest funder of journalism in the country. And we're actually working right now to bring Press Forward to Detroit so that we can continue to invest in more journalism outputs and opportunities.
When you talk about organizations that you all fund, it's got to make you proud to see entities like Black Tech Saturdays, who started here in Detroit, but now are wanted all over the country to take their show on the road. And so shout out to you all for the work that you both are doing.
Dennis, can I just say something?
Absolutely.
Nonprofits are the engine of community transformation, and they are under attack right now. And so there are some that were listed. There are many in this room that were not. There are many outside of this room, some large, some small, that are doing incredible work. I think that it's beholden on all of us to recognize the importance of nonprofits as they are politicized, as they are attacked, to be able to tell the true story. People actually have more faith in nonprofits than they do in government. And so I think it's really important that we shout out.
That's a low bar, but that's okay.
We shout out the ones we know, but we put all of our dollars and our volunteer time in all of the nonprofits that support each of us.
So then what do the people, as a takeaway in the room, you say that nonprofits are under attack.
Yes.
What are the marching orders for the people in this room that are concerned about that? What can we do to help counter that?
I mean, I've heard you in Pancakes and Politics really bravely in what is happening in the world right now. And I don't think a lot of people are bravely framing what's happening. I think there's almost a feeling like if we stay small enough, it'll pass us by. It is all of our responsibility not only to tell the truth about what's happening, but to recognize this is our agency and our power to try to do something about it. Democracy is under attack. Little d, democracy is under attack. And so whether it's practicing DEI that has suddenly become this thing that you can be attacked for, if you look at what's happening in the Southern Poverty Law Center, where there's criminal charges for infiltrating into the KKK to stop it. If you watch what's happening in Louisiana or what's happening in Tennessee, where voting districts for Black folks are disappearing, nonprofits are that interstitial space where the communities that are being harmed by these policy decisions, nonprofits fill the gap every single day. They are our local superheroes. And so, when I think about Detroiters don't play, Detroiters stay ready. This is a time to be ready. And so paying attention to elections, paying attention to what's happening, seizure of ballots. This is a time to stay ready and be able to use your voice not only to support nonprofits, but to support your neighbors in what is coming and what's happening.
Well said. Wendy?
I was going to add, each of us are supporting tools right now to help nonprofits during this time to be ready, to be more engaged, and to raise their voice. And we're doing it at the state level. We're also doing it locally. We're also providing support for nonprofits that are under attack and have been targeted by the federal government and others. So anything from safety training to communications support and technical assistance. So each of us, not on the stage, but also across philanthropy in Detroit and the region, are looking at this issue and creating resources and resource pools for nonprofits to tap into.
Yeah, thank you. Jason, any more action?
Yes, I do. Right over here, surrounded by another doctor, Dr. Chanel Hampton.
Good morning. So I'm loving this conversation this morning. As you all know, I am charged with Mayor Sheffield's vision of building out our city's first Department of Youth and Education. So love this conversation. I have two questions, and first want to thank each of you because you play a critical role in supporting our youth here in the city and in the region. One, we know that we have over 100,000 K-12 students across the city of Detroit, of which half of them are in DPSCD. About half of our students are in 56 different charter districts across the city. And so I want to know, how can we shift the narrative to include all children in Detroit, not just half of our kids? And then the second question is very different. And that question is, how are each of you including youth voice, right? So when we talk about education, kids are at the center of that. Whoever we're talking about should be at the table. Can you talk a little bit about how you involve young people in your grant making and your organizational efforts and in the work that you do each day?
I'm happy to get us started. Thank you not only for your question, Dr. Hampton, but thank you for being the inaugural special liaison to the mayor, director of education and youth affairs. This is a new division that we have at the city of Detroit. This is a new era for Detroit where we are centering young people, not just in our focus, but inside of city government. So thank you. Thank you for what you're doing. What we do, we are in service to young people, but we need to not do things for young people, but with young people. So at Skillman, we take that very seriously. There are youth on our board. We have 2 Gen Zers at any given time that serve on our board. They change the molecules in the boardroom. We have a youth council that gives grants every year. They decide what they want to focus on. They decide like how much they're going to give. They've negotiated up this year, so it's $300,000 that they're giving away. But I think it's extremely important, and that's kind of the exciting thing at the city right now that the mayor's doing and that your team is doing, by asking all 37 city departments to actually relook at their work with the youth lens. That's not happening anywhere else in the country. So I think it's beholden on us to have youth shape our work, but also I think that every entity in here will be improved by having youth not just as part of the programming, but as part of the policy and decision making.
I also want to thank you for your question, Dr. Hampton. When I think about all children, and I think all of us here are very much focused on the all, and all from birth to and through college. And so we're supporting things like RX Kids. And so it's not just the education space, but health and other aspects of what it takes to ensure that we have young people that are well supported in our city. At Kresge, we're primarily a community development funder, so a lot of our work is in neighborhoods and development across the board. One of the things that is exciting for us is the work that we're doing in the Live 6 district right now, where we're working with young people to actually design how to strengthen their neighborhoods. So it's the funding, but also going a little bit more upstream in terms of how young people can be at the table shaping what the future of their neighborhood and communities look like. And it's one of the reasons why we're moving our operations into the city of Detroit.
Wonderful. Kylee?
Yeah, I would just like to add, thank you for noting RX Kids. It's a wonderful partnership that we've been able to support, not just in Detroit, but also in Macomb County. We are a regional funder, as I mentioned earlier, and it's important for us to really look at opportunities in Oakland and Macomb just as much as we're looking at in Detroit. And I think these types of efforts, when you see this happening in Detroit, you see it then moving into Macomb. This creates a sense of regionalism and partnership across county lines that we're seeking through our investment to have impact with.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just add, plus one to everything everyone is saying. I'm a mother, right? I have an 11-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 15-year-old, right? And so being raised in Detroit, having the privilege to lead a foundation in Detroit, my lens is always about what does the future look like? And the future consists of our current youth. And so as we make decisions, we're similar to Kresge, we're place-based. But we are thinking about what 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line, what is the impact of our investments? What is the impact of our investments? And if we're not thinking about youth, we're not doing the right thing because they are our future. I would also add for Detroit Public Schools, as sitting on the school board, we have 2 youth ambassadors who, matter of fact, we had a school board meeting last night, and they come fully with their opinions, their thoughts, their wisdom, and really their advocacy. I mean, if you just sit down and talk to young folks, you'll find they have a strong voice and they have an opinion, and they want to go to schools that have, you know, clean hallways, and they want to get a good education, and they want to go to college. And so, you know, I think as I do my work, being a parent, right? Like, I want Detroit to be a place my children want to live in. I want my neighborhood to be a neighborhood my children want to live in, or any neighborhood in Detroit. And I'm really grateful to Mayor Sheffield and to you, Dr. Hampton, for the work that we're doing right now with a focus on youth. You know, again, shifting that narrative, right? You've been hearing about these youth takeovers and all it is. Listen, our youth need a place to go and have fun, right? We need to be creating those spaces. So when we make investments in like the Joe Louis Greenway or David Merritt's project over on Grand River, this is to support youth. David over at Detroit Horsepower, who's building the largest equestrian center, right? We supported that so that our youth can have spaces to go that are constructive. So again, shout out to Mayor Sheffield and to you, Dr. Hampton, for just putting our youth at the center of the work in the city of Detroit.
You know, as we talk about neighborhoods being the core theme today, how do we prevent neighborhood investment and revitalization from causing displacement?
Well, am I being recorded? No, just I don't think you can prevent that. That's inevitable. We've seen it happen. And I think that we need to not focus on displacement, but focus on strengthening the residents who are here. And we need to continue to invest as funders in folks who have stick and stayed, right? And those who are committed to neighborhoods, invest in our local CDCs. You mentioned CDCs earlier, Wendy. We have some amazing neighborhood CDCs who are doing the real work in community and just making sure the residents that are currently there are being heard, and that we are also investing in their vision and their mission. And then we need to accept some of the new stuff that's coming in as well. I think it's both and. I think we don't just discount the importance of bringing new folks and new innovation to Detroit.
I would echo that, you know, as part of the work that's underway at our foundation, where we're, you know, making this significant investment in the Live 6 community in Detroit. We're using a planning to stay frame. So starting to get out of the displacement, gentrification roller coaster. How can we make sure that our investments as a philanthropy and with other partners are supporting residents who are planning to stay, but also providing opportunities for new residents? And there's ways to do it intentionally and support residents with things like property tax reform and supporting them with climate smart home repair. So all the things that we need to begin to think about and new innovations that we need to bring to this conversation about how do we strengthen neighborhoods, particularly for legacy residents, but also make room for new residents in a way that does not force or make legacy residents have to make difficult choices about remaining in their neighborhood.
Thank you. Jason?
Yes, sir. Greatly questioning my academic career because we have another doctor over here. Dr. Earl Ayers, stand up for me, sir.
So my question is, as a pediatrician and the current chair of pediatrics at the School of Medicine, one of my things is to push art as a social determinants of health. And the reason that I'm bringing that to the table, because when you think about the growth of the brain, you think about the growth of the infant or the newborn or the fetus itself. The fetus sees art as it's being displayed before it, from the blood flow to the gray of the organ of the liver. It comes out, it takes in the environment. But that growth and that development is critical. And so I do want to hear how we're investing in that growth. RX Kids is good. I know Mona, it's a great program, but we need to do something before that to help our parents, particularly in the city of Detroit, where literacy is at 40, illiteracy is at 40%. Reading is an art. As a pediatrician, when they come in, they draw pictures, that's art. If they don't know how to draw, if they don't know how to know what colors, then they're already behind. So I just want to get from the panel some more ways that you're investing in the community, because those are my babies, those are our babies that we need to invest in.
Mm-hmm. So, Dr. Ayers, thank you for that question. It's extremely critical, and we haven't talked enough about the early years, and we're huge supporter and investor in that work, along with the Kellogg Foundation and others. I look at Dr. Hudson and some of the work that we're doing together to support early childhood education through the lens of social determinants of health. So there are investments in the city on that issue, but we can certainly do more.
You know, we sat on, I said, a school board earlier, and everyone supports kids in education. Workforce is a big topic here. And as you talk about affordability and people being able to afford a place to live and to support their family, I think traditionally or historically, you know, it was pushed. You graduate from high school, you go to college, and that was like the path toward an American dream. Even though a generation before may have gone from the high school to the plant, because we're Detroit, they wanted their kids to take a different path. We've learned that that's not the path for everyone. And so that's where the discussion around workforce training and development is so important. What do we need to do differently here around workforce to help fill the gap? I mean, if you look at the skilled trades, I'm sure some of them are represented here. You've got more people approaching or retiring than I think that there are people to backfill those roles. How do we play catch up there, and how does philanthropy help support that?
I would say first that you're right, that there used to be this prevalence of jobs where you didn't have to have a college degree and you could make a middle class income and you could have a pension and you could buy a home and you can retire. And the economy is changing so fast right now. There's such a bifurcation of what is even going to happen that the one thing you do know is that still graduating from high school and going to college will translate into more money, health insurance, and those things. So there is a narrative right now that you don't need to go to a 4-year college. It's expensive. You don't need a degree. And an associate's degree translates into $23,000 more annually, double that for a 4-year degree. Especially with AI and the rapid changing knowledge economy, having that is actually really important. And in Detroit, we have the Detroit Promise. Mm-hmm. And so college is paid for, and there are just not enough students that are taking advantage of that. So I wanted to tout actually finish high school, go to college, learn how you learn, explore big ideas, meet people who are different, challenge yourself in that way, and do it in a way where you take advantage of the Detroit Promise. Beyond that, it's really important to start earlier than high school, although that is where traditionally you start with tracking into different skilled trades. A lot of interesting work is being done around middle school, where there's exposure to jobs and understanding what it is. And that is something I've seen from the business community. There's been more of an interest leaning in to try to actually connect with schools, show what the variety of jobs are, and begin to actually help move into skilled trades. The mayor's workforce, Terry Weems, works really hard on actually connecting a lot of Detroiters that may have a GED, connecting them into well-paying jobs that exist today that can help them buy a home and get into that middle-class lifestyle. So there are some interesting things afoot.
Yeah, well, I'll speak on behalf of DPSCD. We're in the middle of what's called a high school redesign, so that we can actually focus on getting our children kind of into a space where they're thinking about what their future looks like, careers, skilled trades. And back to philanthropy, I believe it's the Ballmer Group who is helping to support some of our high school redesign work. And honestly, it's needed because it wasn't in our budget to be able to just pay for it outright. And we need support for philanthropy, start really having those conversations. What does Michigan need? Right? Where do we need our students to be so that they can graduate, go to college, and come back and work here in Michigan? And I know you, Kylee, have supported some of that work.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for the workforce question. And when I saw DTE listed, my dad's a retired lineman from DTE, and I know what those jobs pay, and DTE literally fed me, and that was a skilled trades job. And then also having the experience of being a co-op student, learning business very early on at Cass Tech, exposure is so important. It's critical. The employer engagement is critical. I started my career at the Detroit Regional Chamber, and I'm often talking with business leaders about the need for internships and really exposing young people to Angelique's point, earlier than high school. And so I am just a proponent. We at the Ballmer Group are really looking at our strategy and refining to focus more on middle school because the earlier the exposure, the better. And so I just ask all employers to really sign up. We've been supporting Grow Detroit's Young Talent, and it's been amazing, but there's more that we need to do throughout the school year. Myself included, I just reached out to Dr. Vidi's team yesterday. I want to be in the schools talking to young people about opportunities in philanthropy. So many adults I know say to me, I've never met a person in philanthropy. And so it's important that we get out early and talk to young people about these types of careers. Some you need the 4-year degree and some you don't, that pay very good wages.
Yeah, thank you. Jason. I know Jeremy has a question too.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This has been a very, very robust conversation, but I want to know, as we look toward the future of philanthropy, what stones are left unturned, what mountains are still left to climb in terms of directing dollars to ensure that gaps are filled with philanthropic dollars? That's first. Second, I know at the beginning of last year, there were so many cuts to nonprofit organizations who supported DEI work, and even on the panel that we hosted for Pancakes and Politics last year, there were so many talks about how philanthropy was going to be leaned on even heavier than in the past here in this region and in other regions across the country. I want to know how you all were able to respond and pivot from that, how you were able to provide more support and, you know, continue to do the things that you're doing throughout this year.
Well, I'm going to say, you know, respectfully, philanthropy cannot save anything, respectfully. It's just not enough money. We have so many issues, so many gaps, but I do believe that we can be unapologetic about what we support. Given DEI issues, cuts, you know, that hasn't changed what the Knight Foundation is doing in Detroit. Detroit, you know, is going to get funded because we believe in this city and it's part of our mission. And regardless of what's happening at the federal level, we've taken the position that our work will continue, and we will continue funding some, you know, economic mobility, democracy and information, cultural vibrancy. And we are very unapologetic about that. And we're unapologetic about funding Detroit. And we all know what Detroit looks like, right? And so that's our stance as the Knight Foundation.
I agree. You know, I think at Skillman, we are clear-eyed that we serve Detroit youth and that there's a role in this moment of tremendous disruption that we're facing. A lot of harm is coming and has happened to our communities, and philanthropy has the resources to do something that is beyond a grant necessarily. We can be a force field. We can be a force multiplier. And so a part of what we think about at Skillman is how do we bring all of our capital into the work? We call it our Smurf, which admittedly doesn't sound intimidating, but we talk about our social capital. It is so important to have social cohesion. And for philanthropists to actually open their Rolodex, old school term, 8-track term, but to actually bring people together to convene. We talk about our moral capital. It's important to call a thing a thing. It's important to say what is happening right now because others can't. Our intellectual capital, our reputational capital, as well as our financial capital. So in addition to trying to offset some of the harm that's happening where we cannot replace the federal dollars that are being clawed back. What we can do is actually try to work with communities to gain momentum, to move and take advantage of this moment of disruption to find a better place and a future world.
From the Ballmer Group perspective, we are truly trying to use our resources in this vision to incentivize authentic collaboration between Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb County. We have put a lot of resources into Detroit. also into Oakland, as well as starting to do more burgeoning investment in Macomb County. My thought is regionalism is so critical to Detroit. If we do not support our region most effectively, we will not have a strong Detroit. And so we partner a lot with government, both at the state and at the county levels, to ensure that we're having this broader conversation. It is not Detroit versus everybody from our vantage point. It is how does Detroit work in great collaboration with Oakland and Macomb County, which we know Southeast Michigan is one of the most segregated places in America. And so we're using our resources to incentivize authentic collaboration, and we're using education as the linchpin for that. That's something that we all can agree on. And so that's what I'm so happy about, that our co-founders, living donors, are willing to use their name and their capital to support this authentic collaboration throughout our state.
So thank you for the question. At Kresge, our approach is twofold during this perilous time. First, protect Detroit. So we're using our resources where we can to protect our partners and support them through this period of disruption to the best of our ability, with financial resources, technical assistance, connections, and particularly connections nationally, because we are a national funder with a deep place-based approach. The second part of our work is building for the future. And so we take a generational lens to our grant making. So we're looking 10, 15 years out, and always trying to invest in ways that continue to build the bridge for Detroit. So as I think about where we're going next, yes, we are in, at sometimes it feels desperate, but there are things on the horizon that Detroit needs to be better prepared for, like climate. And so how do we think about, from a workforce perspective, from quality of life, from affordability, and the climate revolution ahead? How is Detroit best prepared? You know, how is Detroit going to be better prepared regionally? We want Detroit at our foundation to be the #1 job center in the region. So yes, it's important to be connected, but how do we strengthen the city to be able to play in that arena?
Wendy, can I piggyback on that? Because you mentioned something, you're looking 10 to 15 years out. And, I had prepared, question, which is interesting given that, which is how do you balance urgency with the reality that transformational neighborhood change can take decades?
Right. I can speak for us, it's the importance of being able to pivot and be flexible. So, and a lot of it depends on what Detroit needs in the immediate moment. So we have a program that is able to expand and contract and move in different ways depending on what the issue is. I think the bankruptcy was probably our best example, where we did have to balance building for the future, but at the same time being prepared to come together collectively with other philanthropies in the city and the region to do what Detroit needed at that time. So it's a both and. It's never an either or.
Hey, one more from the audience if we have it. Jeremy.
Hi, my name is Gina. I'm a philanthropy enthusiast, and much of today's conversation has been focused on education reform and equitable funding, but how do we realistically separate educational outcomes from things like healthcare accessibility, mental health support, food security, environmental stability? You talk about starting that new infrastructure, thinking about the future. Can we really look at those two things, education and healthcare, separately? Or are we finally to the point where we can bring them both to the table at the same time?
I mean, I think you answered your question, right? Like, no, these are all connected. And I think that sometimes in foundations, we silo ourselves because we have to focus on issues. But these are all intersecting systems that impact that issue. There's climate, there's housing, there's transportation, there's food justice. There are so many things that actually go into creating a good life, which is what we all want for ourselves and our neighbors. And so The reality is that everyone here plays a different role in trying to tackle it. And in the past, perhaps we haven't always worked together as much as we are now. I mean, entering this community, one of the things that I realized 5 years ago is that people work collaboratively. This is a purple state. People work across like partisan lines. People work together on values aligned change. And so Skillman focuses on education reform, but we work really closely with those that are thinking about health, that are thinking about transportation, you know, Rocket Community Fund, they do a lot around housing. So we try to come at it from different perspectives, but you're right, we have to see it as a whole thing that we're working on achieving.
A great question. As we close, let me first say that those who are watching online, you can continue to watch online for interviews, post the live show, and anyone who wants to watch this later can go to michiganchronicle.com/pancakes and politics. I want to thank you all for being here. As I said before, there's 3, 4, 5 of our friends in the crowd that could have easily joined us if we had a bigger stage. And there are lots of you in the audience that are involved in philanthropy, some organizations big, some small. So give yourselves a round of applause for the work that you're doing. I guess, as we close, perhaps if you could capsulize in one sentence, each of you, what is the single most important investment Detroit and Southeastern Michigan must make now to ensure shared prosperity over the next generation?
That's a big question.
I'll start. Transit. We need to get it done and figure out how we're going to create a regional transit approach that moves people, but also connects people.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be next on the bucket list.
Tiffany's here. I know she likes that answer. She's here somewhere.
Okay.
I would agree. Having a more well-connected region will actually break down a lot of the silos that I mentioned in my former remarks. And so I am all in on transit as well.
I'll say education. I think that's the moonshot that we have for Detroit at this moment. We have a mayoral cabinet that's actually focused on education. Every gubernatorial candidate understands it's the #1 thing. We have a focus on not just silver bullets, but we have a systemic analysis of what's going on. And centering youth in that is the way that we move it forward faster.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with what everyone said, but I'm going to say poverty. Because I feel all of these issues kind of boil up to poverty. And if we focus in on education, we focus in on transit, the last question, right? Like I just keep going back. I know you answered it, but I have to say, we get a lot of flack about reading rates and what kids aren't doing, but it's hard for kids to read when they're hungry, when they don't have a bed to sleep in, when they don't feel good and they can't get to a doctor. And it takes the entire village, everyone in this room, really to come to support our students. Like, students need help. There are real social issues, poverty issues in Detroit that's preventing us from kind of hitting that North Star that you talked about. So we have to tackle poverty.
Thank you. The perfect way to close. I want to thank you all for being here. And I would just say that for the women on stage and all of the organizations in the audience, everybody still needs help. You can write a check, you can volunteer, you can have students shadow you. There's a role for everyone in here to play. So I hope you leave here this morning feeling energized and that you want to go out and make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Back here on Pancakes and Politics, the post-game show here on Local 4 Plus. I'm with Kylee Mitchell, who's the president of the Detroit Public Community District Foundation.
Yes.
I'm sure you had to love the fact that this conversation really got dominated by education.
It is. I mean, when you think about bringing the city of Detroit back, you can't leave out education. You can't leave out our students. So I'm really grateful that each person on the panel knew the importance and has been supportive of that throughout the time that they've been in spaces.
Yeah, when you think of it, we've talked on Flashpoint before just about solutions, but Latrice, the school board president,
yes,
double duty, made a point to say, you know, it gets undercovered what the successes are with kids, and we should focus more on that.
Absolutely. I mean, for the last year, we've got the highest we've ever had, which is 83% graduation rate within DPSCD. And that's only 1 percentage point away from the state average. And so this year we're tracking to actually be higher. So we are looking for those numbers to come out soon. But that means that what Dr. Vitti, our superintendent, is doing within DPSCD is working, and it is effective, and it's helping our students become more successful in their lives.
Since we haven't talked since Detroit Mayor Mary Sheffield has taken office, of the new programs like free bus rides for kids with student IDs and other programs to try and reach out to the neighborhoods, which stands out to you as being is going to make the best difference when it comes to education?
We're so grateful for our partnerships in Mary Sheffield. I mean, all of them, because it takes everything to make sure that our students have everything to be successful. So when you think about transportation, when you think about after school, all of those things work collectively together to bring our students back. It's just not one thing. So it's really everyone figuring out how they can support our students in the most meaningful way. And Mayor Sheffield answered that call.
Yeah. And chronic absenteeism has always been a big problem.
Absolutely.
And if you can eliminate that, or at least cut that way down, that feels like a huge hurdle.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like Kylee Mitchell Wells from the Ballmer Group, stated, our Health Hub initiative is in 12 of our neighborhood high schools. It is there to provide mental health support, nursing, school-based health centers, food distribution, clothing, toiletries. All of those things are inside of our schools. So each of our students, whether they're in a 3.5-mile radius from that high school, is able to go and get all of those services. And so as long as they have one student in DPSCD, the entire family can be serviced. And so that comes from if they need housing support, if they need transportation, they can visit our health hubs.
And that goes to cut down on what Latrice finished with, which is cutting that poverty rate down.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kylee Mitchell, thanks so much. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate it. Coming back on Local 4 Plus with more of the wrap-up show. Stay with us. Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. Following Pancakes and Politics and Pancakes and Politics. One more cup of coffee ought to do it. We're on the wrap-up show, and we're with Alexa Turnage, who's the co-founder of Black Tech Saturdays. Great to have you here. Before I ask you about today's discussion, tell me about Black Tech Saturdays.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here this morning. Such a powerful conversation. But at its core, Black Tech Saturdays is an economic mobility organization moving the needle forward for tech-curious people, entrepreneurs and tech founders who are moving the needle forward in education, climate, all these different things, and solving problems right here in Detroit.
That's fantastic. What was your takeaway from today's discussion?
Today was such a powerful discussion. So many things were discussed, but at the center of the conversation was education.
Yeah.
Education, our youth, and what are we doing to help mobilize them, to help them create forward momentum for themselves, as we all want to support and we want to know how we can plug in. And that's such an important thing that I think we can all kind of take a step back, zoom out, and say, what does that look like and how can we support that?
I'm trying to remember who said it. I probably have it in my notes, but it was somebody mentioned that stood out. We're in an 8-track world, or we're using 8-track strategies in a digital world. That was Wendy who said that. And I thought, that is when you try and solve the education problem, you do need to, it's not enough to say we're spending the most money we've ever spent, which is great, but you got to use it the right way.
That's right. And that's where organizations like Black Tech Saturdays come in. We see these problems and we say, how can we create real solutions that are tangible? Young people, they want to make money. They want to go to college. They're curious. They are innovators. And at BTS, we have our new microcert program coming out with the University of Michigan, where we're starting off with AI fluency as one of our first courses. And employers want to see that, you are fluent in AI, that you are a problem solver. And these tools are going to be their bridge to success as we work to disrupt education and learning.
And we've seen a lot of school districts already starting to embrace AI, using it in the classroom. It was almost looked at like the enemy of education at first, but now we're embracing it. I think everybody's like, whether you want a data center in your backyard or not, that's different. AI's here. And it's going to help our kids of tomorrow get a job that they want.
That's right. And we got to put our kids ahead of the curve. We want them to be educated. We want them to be aware of what's going on so they can have these tools and they can make it work for them.
Anything else that kind of was your favorite part of the discussion? I mean, obviously education was there, but did you hear some solutions or give you some hope about turning education around a little bit in the state of Michigan?
This conversation really encouraged me. Nonprofits, it's kind of a weird time right now, and this conversation really encouraged me to keep going, to keep doing the work. It's meaningful, it's impactful, it is making a difference. And everyone coming together in this room today is just a true sign that when we all work together, that these things can get done. Philanthropy is a tool that can help in these efforts, but it's going to be a more collective approach. And so that's what I was reminded of today. And I was encouraged just to keep going, keep doing the work so that we can see the change that we want to see.
Angelique Power pointed that out a couple times. Nonprofits are under attack. Last year on a Pancakes and Politics, we had a nonprofit event, and that dominated. I didn't realize at the time that just how much the government is taking things away or clamping down. They really are under attack, and they're so needed in the community, which obviously
for a lot of nonprofits, like the faucet has literally been turned off, and you've had to be creative. You have to think outside the box on what does funding look like, what does support look like, and it's not always a grant. Sometimes it's introduction, sometimes it's this other capital that you can build on to really move your organization forward in ways that are not just the money and the funding that of course it is needed. So,
Alexa Turnage, Black Tech Saturdays. Thanks so much
for
being with us.
Thank you so much. That's a powerful conversation today.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I was riveted the whole time. Coming back with more guests here on the post-game show. Stay with us. Welcome back on Local 4 Plus, the wrap-up show on Pancakes and Politics. I'm Jason Colthorpe. With us now, Nate Wallace, who is the head of civic partnerships at Michigan Central. Good morning. First, tell me about what you're doing over at Michigan Central. That must be a nice place to work.
Oh man, it is a phenomenal opportunity to work a project like that.
Yes.
It's 32 acres, anchored by a 650,000 square foot renovated train station. Amazing what's happening in the new lab. It's amazing what's happening to the region. It's amazing the type of impact that we're starting to have. And the ecosystem is actually starting to coalesce. So really excited about what's happening.
It's nice when people talk about Detroit's revitalization, and we're well into it now, but that's like almost like that capstone that people point to.
Well, we hope so. We want this to be the front door when we visit Detroit. We're thinking about regional transit, a lot what people talked about today on the panel. We're thinking about the future of education. We're thinking about how to make sure that innovation is rooted and grounded in Detroit, and we hope to lead a lot of that work.
Regional transit came up there at the end there, and whenever it does, it's always like, yes, we kind of dream a little bit, and then it kind of hits us. Where are you on regional transit? I guess the practical question is, what can we actually get done there?
Yeah, so it's a lot that's happening right now. It's a lot of conversation, but a lot is happening in the background. So a lot is happening around a multimodal station, a lot of conversations in regards to what an actual hub can look like. That's international, but also Chicago, Ann Arbor, and Detroit. So the talks is actually real. So we're starting to get out of that imagination phase and to actually into some meat and potatoes.
Well, somewhere Warren Evans is smiling. I know that.
Well, good.
So you mentioned education as well. Did it surprise you that what topic of nonprofits and working on Detroit's neighborhoods quickly and then was dominated by education?
No, not at all. Not at all. I think a lot of the work that we do at Michigan Central is rooted in youth. One of the first tenets that we had at Michigan Central was the Boys and Girls Club, Southeastern Michigan. And that was on purpose. When we think about the future, which is what Michigan Central is about, it has to be rooted in our youth. So a lot of the work that Boys and Girls Club is doing is centered around youth, but also the philosophy of Michigan Central is making sure that we're prepared for the jobs of the future. So in regards to that ecosystem, making sure that even though people are making things at Michigan Central, we want to make sure that the kids have access to all the things that's happening there.
And a lot of what we heard today couldn't help but feel hopeful about education.
That's right.
I mean, they're about to set a new historic graduation rate level. So that a lot of good news.
Absolutely. And I think this new administration and the focus that she has on youth and Detroiters is going to be substantial. So we're happy to support and we're happy to do our part.
When you think of it that way and how the mayor is focused on the neighborhoods more than we've seen in recent past, it was part of her campaign.
That's right.
But we've heard leaders say, we're working in the neighborhoods. Do you feel like it's happening more than it has before?
Absolutely. Even the way that Mayor Sheffield has run her campaign, the work that she was doing before she ran for mayor, it was all centered in community.
Yeah.
So, and the work of philanthropy is community. So those two powerhouses combined, we're excited to see what the next 4 years brings.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're excited to see what happens in the next conversation, Pancakes Politics. Nate, thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure.
Appreciate the insight. That's going to do it for our wrap-up show, Pancakes and Politics here in downtown Detroit. I'm Jason Colthorpe. Thanks for watching on Local 4 Plus.